Right, we're here in my conservatory, the thing that I laughingly refer to as my workshop. It's a bit of a blustery day on a cold and damp November afternoon. So anyway, what am I here for? Well, I said I would put up a little video of something that I'm currently working on, and that is a replica of that. This is the Rani's TARDIS, the filming miniature made by Mike Tucker for the quality production that is Dimensions and Time. If I remember rightly, it was the 30th anniversary, so that puts it back in 1993. With all due respect to Mike, but I think he didn't have much of a budget or time. It's pretty crude. It's a very simple build. It's built from foam. It's a medium density foam. You probably can't see it too well, but it's, as I said, it's a medium density foam. It's the sort of foam that you would find in equipment cases. Now, I'm not going to be building mine exactly the same way as Mike built his. I'm going to be doing it very slightly different. Dimensionally, I'll keep it the same. It's just the materials. I don't happen to have any of this packing foam material to hand. In fact, I'm going to be using a modern equivalent, and it's this stuff. This is polyisocyanurate. I'm not entirely sure if I've pronounced that perfectly, but just to give you an idea, it's an insulation foam. You can buy it at any hardware store. You know, Wix or Home Base, or if you're in the States, I presume you can get it at Lowe's. It's chemically very similar, so therefore it's a cousin of polyurethane foam. Very easy to cut, very easy to shape. You can sand it, you can carve it with all manner of tools. I'm using this stuff because I just happen to have it. I don't have exactly the same stuff that Mike had. You can peel the foil away. Usually you would cut out your basic shapes like so, and then if you need to work on it, then you would peel this stuff off. It comes off relatively easily. That's sort of what it looks like when you take it off. And that's a scrap piece that I've taken off just one side here. But just to give you an example as to how easy this stuff is to carve, look, I don't know if you can see that. Let's just bring it a bit closer to the camera and focus. It doesn't seem to want to. Oh well, that'll do. So yeah, you can, well, as I say, you can carve this stuff out. You can break it, like so. You can get all sorts of textures by just literally pulling this stuff apart. You could make rock faces and what have you with it. This is, in fact, they use this sort of stuff all the time in miniature making anyway. Right, so as I was saying, this stuff is relatively easy to work with. You can carve it with all manner of tools. You can cut it. You can shave it. You can sand it. It's pretty forgiving. Just to give you an example of how easy it is to cut this stuff. Box cutter, and well, no safety here, but there you go. Cut. Very easy to work with. In terms of shaping it, as I was saying, you can do it with a knife, but you can also do it with sandpaper. Now here's a little experiment I did. It's a bit of a, well, trapezoid there going on. It's much cleaner than trying to do it with a knife. Now here's an earlier example I tried doing effectively this pointy cap piece here. This one was done with a knife. I cut the square out and then literally did this, zip, and all it did was tear, because obviously you've got a feathered edge here. So my next idea was to dispense with that and cut my piece to size. This is just an example, this is not what I did. Cut it out to the appropriate size, but actually peel this off first. I found that if you cut it and then shape it, then peel it off, what happens is the feathered edge, which again you probably can't see terribly well here, the feathered edge actually tears off with the material. So there you have some of the material just sitting there. This is the material that's broken off here. If I can find the appropriate side, there you go. So that there is that there. So obviously the idea is to cut it pretty much to shape, remove the foil, then shape it afterwards. To be honest, I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's such a simple build. It is literally just a box. It comprises of, let's have a quick count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pieces. So it's just 13 bits that you need to cut to size and glue together. As I was saying, you can pretty much do it anyway, really. It's just a matter of faffing about, and that's what I was effectively doing, because I've never used this particular chemical makeup of foam before. So what did I do? Well, literally just cut 13 bits and stick it together. That's all it was. There's nothing much more than that I can say, and I really don't want to insult your intelligence by describing the process. So this is the one that I've made. It's pretty much like the original. It's templated directly off of the original. Actually, a good tip on templating, just let me take that one out and bring the original one back in, because I'm a bit of a detail whore. I wanted to make sure that mine matched, and a good way of templating is by using masking tape. Now, here's the way I do it. Very simply, it's low tack, so you can take that and you can stick it on like so. Zip. All these noises are technical terms, by the way. Take a pen, and then you mark off that bit, that bit, that bit, and that bit. And then you would repeat this all the way around until it's all done. Then you take the pieces off, preferably as a whole, and you have your marks. So as I said before, this one is slightly asymmetrical. Doing this creates a guide all the way around, so you know exactly what you're doing. And so long as you orientate it, so you say, well, that's side 1, side 2, side 3 and side 4, and you orientate it to your tape, when you come to make your replica, you just put it back in the order that you started with, and you can recreate it. So in that regard, mine has the same asymmetry. You probably can just about see it there. I don't know. The lighting is not particularly brilliant in here, but yeah, it's not exactly square, but it's not exactly off square either. It's good enough. The original one was only seen on screen for a matter of seconds. It was a long shot, and you know, that's all that was really needed. You know, why make more work for yourself? Let's just have a look at Mike's model. Now, as you can see, just here, there's damage. Now, he's obviously broken away. In fact, it goes all the way along here. It goes along here, goes along there. In fact, it's all over the place. It's down here, and it goes all the way around. There's quite a significant piece here. This actually looks like it's a... What exactly has he done here? Oh, I see what he's done. When he cut this section out, it looks like he did a double cut, so he probably cut through and then on his second slice moved and created this little lip in here. You can just see it move. In fact, you can see how soft the foam is that he's using. I won't do exactly this, but I'll probably try to put something like this in here. I'm not sure quite what I'll do for that. You know, there may be a technique I can show you. But all the way around it, there's like little dings on the corner there. You know, they've been knocked out. There's a scratch along here. I could probably even do that with one of these skewers. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing next. But I have to literally wait until the other thing is dry. But yep. So we're going to be using different tools for this. Probably sandpaper, maybe a wire brush. We'll see how I feel as I'm doing it. So we're going to need a few tools to enable us to create this wear and tear damage to the stovework. And the first piece is going to be this, a wire brush, this sanding block, this, a really worn out sponge sanding block, that's just to fine tune it, this. No, just kidding. We'll use this. And there we have it. One of those, maybe two of those, might be a lie. So before I start tackling this, I just want to familiarise myself with the original. I also need to make sure that I orientate my model the same way around as this, because each face here has different names going down them. So I want to make sure that this one here has Tom Baker at the bottom, so I've got to make sure that this one also, when I put it in here, faces the right way round. I'm going to have a little bash at doing some of this on camera, and then I'll do the rest off camera because, well, really, I want to concentrate on what I'm doing rather than trying to film myself. Okay, so the Tom Baker fascia is here, so that is that one. And I want to create this here. Now the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use this wire brush, and I'm literally just going to go down the edge of it. So let's have a look at that. So just double check I am correctly orientated, and there seems to be a little bit of a corner up there, so there we go. Let's see what happens here. I think I'll take a piece of this, just knock those corners down, and that goes to just to there. So I'm breaking through the sealed area, and I'm just making sure, in fact that goes right the way along, quite soft, and I know there's a bit over there, so if I just take these edges off and then go back with this, that needs to be a little bit deeper just there. This is going to make quite a bit of mess, as you can see. Now I need to come over this way, and I'm going to start attacking these sides here as well. So this is just to block it out. You come back with this, just round some of those edges off. That's rounded quite a bit there. I'm just using the edge. I'm just taking quite easy, just rounding off, and if I want to fine tune it I can come back with my softer sponge, just take the edges off. So yeah, that's about right there. It goes deeper there, it goes back to being flat here, so I need to take a bit more off here, just take it down there a bit. Now I would like some more gouges here, so just going to do that. Great, that's that done. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. There's a little bit of an edge gone here, so I'm going to take that out there. Is that sharp? Yep. Now, so if I turn this model round and then this one, see what I'm doing is I'm going back and forth each time. This one, actually I'm going to use this one, and that starts actually just on this corner and it gets wider along the top, and it joins to that corner there, so we try to knock that corner. And the other good thing about the fact this is painted is I can tell how far down I'm going, so if I break through the surface of the paint I know I'm about right. So that bends down that way, so you just need to take a little bit of this, not too much. It does go back further over that side. Yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going. Just take some of that out there, fine tune that. A little bit on the bottom, I don't want to take too much off down here. Just want to run a bit of that there, just give me a few deeper gouges, because it is a bit rough there. So I can sort of see what I'm doing. So it gives this sort of feathered edge here. This one's much smoother. I've got to do the undersides as well. Actually I can do with coming over a bit more. Just slightly rounding this. There we are. Alright, so here's a closer look at the top here. Just to give you a bit of an idea, like I said, I'm going to just roughen some of these edges up along here, because I don't want it totally smooth. I want it to look like it's been bashed about a bit. So when I take this, I can just knock some of the fluff off and just keep going. Right, we're on the final stretch now, and of course now that I want a particular tool I can't find it. Oh yes I can, it's right in front of me. So we're going to work on a bit on the steps, and right here on Mike's is a gouge, and I'm just going to work very slowly to recreate that, just using a skewer here, just literally to turn my way into it, and that goes up to there. It doesn't really matter whether I do the gouge first or the texturing along here. I'm just going to do it this way around. No other gouges on this. There is lots of stuff here. Just going again back between the two. So where's my brush? I'm going to tilt that down because I know I need to go in here. And just in there, because there's some fairly deep gouges in there. And as always, I'm looking at my model, then looking at Mike's, then back and forth between the two, just to make sure I'm doing exactly what he's done. So let's just take those gouges there out. There's a gouge on this side, and there's a couple of gouges up here where that crack is. Yep. Okay, I will carry on with this, and we'll come back to the model once I've taken all the corners off. Okay, back shortly. So you can probably see I've well and truly roughed this up here. It doesn't look absolutely great here, but this is only the first stage of the process. I now have to do the next stage, which is add a little bit of texture to that, and to do that I'm going to be using artist acrylic paint. I'm literally going to use it neat. Yes, I've got water here, but that's just to clean the brush. It's going to be neat, straight out of the tube. I don't know how old this paint is, it's probably about 10 years old. I'm going to be using that. Why am I using blue? Just because it's the first one I happen to pick up. Also, just by chance, it will show up better on this when I record myself doing this. You should be able to see it better. I will probably start using a stipple brush. This stipple brush is probably about 25 years old, and I'm literally going to just do that. Right, okay, let's get on with this. So I'll start here just so you can sort of see what I'm doing. I'm literally just going to do this. So I'll probably need to do a couple of passes. This is just a coverage pass. So this is, yeah, this is going to be the first stage. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting on fairly liberally, excuse me, and dabbing this stuff on. So I'll probably take quite a number of passes to do this, and I can see on screen already it's looking way too bright, but we're not concerned about that, it's the texture we want. Alright, let's keep going. Dab, 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 dab. Want to be a bit careful around where the lettering has been engraved into it. I don't want to absolutely swamp that, so be very careful around that. Make sure I don't leave any huge deposits of paint, but it would be nice to get the paint actually into it as well, so I'm going to just scrub that. Come back with the paint, go over it, stipple, stipple, stipple. I suppose you could use any type of brush, but this just happens to be a stippling brush. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, my mother went through a phase of wanting to stipple everything. I think it's as a result of a program called Changing Rooms. They used to make everything out of MDF and effectively ruin people's houses and make their houses look like crap. And for some reason my mother got very much into their artsy crafty crap, and between us we ended up stippling various tasteful patterns onto our conservatory. Seems like conservatories are a bit of a theme of my life. So there we are. Right. Got to be a bit careful when I get down to the bottom here, because that's going to be fun, because I don't want to end up building up paint. It's going to go everywhere where I don't want it to go. Come on, oops, don't push too hard. Okay. So it's a bit sloppy on there at the minute, but we'll sort that out. But as I said, we can go through this, we'll do multiple passes. I know Mike Tucker didn't do this, but I am, because we're using a very slightly different material. Yeah. So, yeah, let's go through this. That is the first stage of texturing with neat acrylic paint. Now, obviously I have to do this a few more times, and I am going to be using another substance called cabosil, which is this dusty stuff down here. It's just a filler, a bulker, and I'm going to mix that neat into the paint and apply. When you next see this, it'll be black and even more lumpy. Okay, I've done a little bit of the black paint on here. It's actually black paint and cabosil. I think I mentioned this earlier. Haven't done this bit yet because I've been holding it, so yep, the texture's slowly starting to build up there. I'm not sure if you can see that, but yep, it's going to take a little bit of a while. But yeah, Cabosil, I might as well just show you, there it is. It's the white stuff. So that stuff there is the paint, obviously. Now, if I mix in a little bit of this Cabosil, really I ought to be wearing a mask. Hope to goodness I don't knock it over. Let's just take a little bit out. It looks a bit naughty, but that's it, it's a powder. So if I plonk that in there, and I now mix this together. Come on. Got really far too much. So it's gone from being fairly liquidy to quite thick. It has dimension, and that allows us, or me, to apply it. Now, what I'm effectively going to be doing, if I can get it off here, as you can see it's really, really thick now. It has the consistency of actually filler. And you could say, well, why didn't you just use filler? Well, bottom line is, it would mean me having to go off and look for it. So anyway, this is quite thick and goopy. It allows me to put it on to the model, and then if I had a brush that wasn't being washed, I would show you it, but yeah, okay. I basically stipple it on, but with a brush. Actually, here's a good example. Let me just, hopefully you can see this, if I put it on quite thick there. Hopefully you can see there's sort of texture to it. Now what I do is, obviously with a brush and not my palette knife, I stipple it. I mean, I'm completely over-egging it here, but let's see, can you see that? It is really dark in here. But you get the general idea, but that's what I'm doing. I'm mixing a powder, which is this stuff, with paint. Right, we've come into the house now where it's a little bit warmer. What I've done so far is to base coat this in the sort of stony grey colour that I want the final piece to be. The next step is to let this dry. There's no point in me showing you me painting this because, well, what's the point? You know how to paint. So, base colour of that. Then the next thing I want to do is to mix up a little bit of black into the same paint and give it a bit of a wash, just to sort of knock this colour back a bit. And then over that I'm just going to continuously work on various washes, essentially making it up as I go along, but based on Mike's, which will be always close by. What I don't want to have in this is brush strokes. I'm going to constantly build up the layers, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect at this stage, because we're going to continuously work on this in layers. This is not what Mike Tucker did at all. I can pretty much guarantee he did not do this, but I am, as you can see. Right, I'll continue doing this and we'll come back when this layer is done. Okie dokie, it's now time to start adding the black. There's black and brown applied to the original one, and it looks like Mike applied the black first and then brown. So that's what I'm going to do. As always, Mike's is very close by, so I can follow his to the letter, so to speak. It's actually a bit weird, actually, the way he's done it, but let's just copy it. So, there's a little bit on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on, relatively liberally. Just a bit on the corner here. Take that off that side. So what I'm going to do is effectively work it in with a brush, dab off, and continue. That is really quite dark up there. So because I'm doing a sort of wet on wet, I can blend it in a lot better than if I was doing it just a dry layer. So he's got a massive streak going along there, but we should blend that out. And he's got loads up here. to be honest. Okay, as usual, I shall crack on with this, and you can come back and have a look once I'm done. Right, I'm home with my kids now. My son is just on the sofa playing with his computer console, and I've now, well, almost finished. I'm just putting a couple of highlights on this thing now. I'm just going around the edges here, just putting some highlights in, so never know, we might be done. Then after this, it's a matter of, what have I got to do next? Actually, that's a good question. What have I got to do next? This, and then, oh yeah, lacquer the thing. So, dry brushing here, just putting some on the edges just to catch the highlights, especially along the damaged areas. So, don't want to go too much on this. So, just a gentle touch. And quite frankly, I've had enough of this now. So, with luck, this will be it.